reporting on the games you love by people who love to game. The MMO Reporter Network. You're listening to Defiance Reporter on the MMO Reporter Network, brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download at audibletrial.com/MMO Reporter. And by Doghouse Systems. Choose your weapon with Doghouse Systems.
Greetings, Arc Hunters. Welcome to another episode of Defiance Reporter. We're hitting episode 30, and I'd like to talk about the Frontier Truth with you. We've got our new DLC coming out called Gunslinger Trials. It really does bring in the Frontier aspect of the game and show, as well as doing some recap with Michelle. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, how are you?
We're still doing some Reliving Defiance, aren't we?
We are, for as long as we possibly can until June. I'm trying to find a way to stretch the episodes. Like, maybe we'll have to just watch 10 minutes of it at a time, like every Monday, to bide our time until June. But yes, we are reliving.
Sci-Fi's doing a good job about ramping up some information now, aren't they?
Yeah, and we'll talk about that too. Jesse Ratt, they've really been putting him to work. He's like the hardest working actor on Sci-Fi right now, but he's been doing a few fun things.
I saw him on Being Human the other day.
I didn't watch it. I was mostly just reading his tweet. How'd he do?
Now that I watch him in Being Human after watching Defiance, all I see is Alec Tarr, honestly.
Trying to be a human.
He's got his slick wavy hair. He's walking around. In this episode, he was kind of jackass in the beginning, being a good brother to his sister, but still being I don't know. It's kind of hard to describe his character. He's very conflicted. He doesn't know what he's doing.
Which is kind of like Alec and Defiance, so it sounds like he's got that one on lock, that character.
But yeah, Defiance is putting him, or Sci-Fi is putting him to work with these little videos, and I hope we get a lot more of them. Even my wife was impressed with these.
Yeah, these were great.
And then we still have the webisodes to look forward to, which I hope are just as good and slightly longer.
Right, and more than 30 seconds per se, or a minute and a half. I agree.
So, we'll go ahead and discuss that in a little bit, but let's go ahead and talk about the drama in Defiance.
Drama in Defiance.
We're doing Relive Defiance episodes 7 and 8. Since we're doing a bi-weekly show, you get 2 episodes in before we do this. And episode 7 is Goodbye Blue Sky.
Yeah, which can basically be summed up in one tweet from Daz Watford, which is Zombie Sukar, which should also just be the name of that episode, because that's pretty much what it is. It's Sukar all the way, which I think you've said that this is one of the reasons that you like this episode so much is because of Sukar's performance.
Noah Danby is an excellent actor, and I love his role as Sukar. I've seen him in a few other things, like Copper. And Copper he's pretty good in. I can't get over his Sukar performance. I think that's one of his best.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I think it has something to do with the way he presents himself. Very strong, masculine, and just powerful without trying. He just is.
Exactly. I think it's the feathers, number one. People have said this, Jamie Murray said this, and Stephanie Leonidas has said this, and that you may not feel in character, but once you get into costume, once you get into makeup, you can't help but inhabit that character. When I was rewatching this episode, I couldn't decide if, for some reason, this minor character, Sukar, was just so well written that, he just jumps off the page, or if it was Noah Danby. And I think it's mostly Noah Danby, the actor, that's turning this into something amazing.
Well, let's not downplay the script, because the script was really good. It was an interesting conflict with technology and religion. The thing is, his performance really sold the conflict.
Yeah.
You couldn't tell if it was Sukar or if it was something else. If he was being religiously inhabited, or what is that called?
Oh yeah, if he
when the Holy Spirit takes you, that kind of thing.
If he caught the Holy Ghost or if he didn't.
Being possessed.
Yes, possessed.
His performance really sold that, and it's one of my favorite episodes. And it's, from what I understand, one of the reasons why they kept Noah Danby in the script, or kept Sukar in the script. If you've noticed, watching the whole series, he's never been pronounced dead. He's still alive. all the way up until the season finale. And that's because they want to keep him in the script. They want to keep him for season 2.
Which, thank God, because Defiance has a habit of killing off characters that you really want to see in future seasons. And so at least they decided to keep him. And, I do give him credit because, science versus religion is always interesting. That conversation's been had many, many times, and I'm always drawn into it. But the way they did this particular episode and just the way it went down at the end up in the arch, I thought was done really, really well because you've got a lot of different things going on. I mean, you've got religion versus science, right?
Mm-hmm.
A father-daughter relationship playing out where the daughter is completely
Torn.
yes, completely torn and cutting ties with the father figure. And it's just, there's so much going on on the top of that arch during the end of the episode. On the rewatch, it was one of my favorite scenes of that episode because when I first watched it, it was, I've known this as the Galian episode, the episode where the Galian action happened. But on the rewatch, I saw it completely differently.
Yeah, it does that, especially if you start appreciating more and more of the different aspects of the show. Rewatches tend to change your view and your opinion of the episode that you're rewatching. Now, Irissa is in conflict because she's had such a crappy father in the past.
You mean in the form of Nolan?
No, her original father.
Oh,
Biodad.
oh yeah, the first parents.
The one that was willing to sacrifice her.
Yeah.
Her second father, whom is adopted, has raised her. She's been with him for years. And they have their spats, but no matter how much love and appreciation Nolan can give her or do for her, he's not her dad. He's also not of her race, so he cannot connect with her 100%. So there's always going to be that small little rift, and sometimes that rift turns into a huge gulf.
Right. And the way that kind of works is in this episode, a part of it in the main plot is religion versus science, and they had those conversations. But for the way I saw it, it was really Irissa. It was more about culture for her. Like, where does she actually belong? Because her parents did this whole religious thing early on, and it did not go well for her.
It's seeking acceptance. That's what she's looking for. She wants to come into somebody's fold, and she doesn't know which fold she belongs in.
And she does it so well because you're right there with her the whole time. As frustrated as you feel for Nolan and you feel for her, but when she hits that switch, you're kind of like, well, what else is she going to do? I mean, you really do feel sorry for her in some regard.
I watched it, and each time I watched it, I understood the conflict better the second time, obviously. But there's just moments that I think Irissa's being a spoiled teenage girl.
You mean, oh, yeah, and a complete
being
and total adolescent.
Stubborn and obstinate and just refusing to listen to anybody and do things her way just because people tell her to do it some way else. She has to do it the opposite. So she's going to flip the switch because somebody told her not to.
That's true. Classic parenting 101, right? Like, redirect. Don't say not to do something. Just redirect her. Like, ooh, Irissa, let's go find something else. Yeah.
Now, be honest with me.
Yeah.
Who did you choose? Who did you want her to choose at the end there, up in the arch?
Well, I felt completely duped and like a dumb human. I wanted her to choose Nolan because I'm a sucker for Nolan. Whatever Nolan wants, I want him to get because I have some sort of soft spot in my heart for him. And I really did want her to choose Nolan. And also because I thought Nolan was right. So, why wouldn't I want her to choose him? Why did you want her to choose Sukar?
No, I'm right with you. I initially wanted her to choose Nolan, but the thing is I think the episode was designed for everybody to want her to go back to her original father, the one who's taking care of her, instead of this leader and holy man who just showed up out of the blue and decided to adopt her.
Right.
Immediately after making that decision, you are felt to regret it because he was right the entire time.
Exactly, which is what was kind of cool about the way this arc went, this story arc.
Yeah, I really quite enjoyed it, and it broke my heart to see Nolan shoot him. It really did.
And so many times, too. I mean, that was even worse. It's kind of like, oh, man, I kind of wish he would die after one shot because he just kept going.
He's a zombie. You're supposed to go for the headshots.
Seriously, clearly they don't remember The Walking Dead in 2046. It's just a distant memory. Rewatching, so I'm a fan of Nikki. I like her a lot. I wish they would have kept her character around. And watching her lurk around the Macaulay household and put her talons into pretty much everyone she came into to get what information she needed was really fun to watch a second time. I kept thinking, like, if they would just keep her around and let her partner up with Stama for 2 episodes, the world of Defiance would never be the same.
It's hard for me to, and you're not supposed to know this at this time in the episode or in the series, but it's hard for me to picture indigenes having different personalities. It really, really is.
I mean, like being able to be so
Cunning and
human in
coy?
a way? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So far, they've all exhibited conniving, just a want to be mischievous, honestly. They want to go out and do their own thing, and they do it out in secret, and they're always doing something behind somebody else's back. There's Ben, the indigene, there's Nikki, and then, of course, Doc Ewell, who's got her own agenda.
Right.
And, of course, we don't know any of this at this episode, but having rewatched it, there's a bigger appreciation for the fact that these indigenes are highly intelligent and just as manipulative as the Cassidans.
Yes, only because of her performance, because you're right. The indigenes so far have been very secretive. They don't necessarily open up to many people. It's like they are very good at living double lives almost.
But where's the fun indigene? Where's the guy who runs around and does party planning? You know?
Right.
That happy-go-lucky,
any.
confetti-throwing indigene. No, there's none. They're all sneaky, conniving, snarky, backstabbing aliens.
Yeah, which it was, I think, later in another episode, but Fias, he's sometimes on the chat room, but he was like, well, Doc moves between sarcasm, cynicism, and disdain. And he's like, see, those are character changes. So those are
Barely.
pretty much the emotions of an indigene, and he's right on. He hit on a complete, character paradigm there.
Yes, he did. Now, I noticed here in the show notes you put that she was quite Weasley. Do you really see Nikki as Weasley?
Kind of. Only, okay, you know why I said that? Because when she alludes to anything remotely that mirrors an affair with pretty much anyone, it makes me feel kind of uncomfortable. I kind of put that because I was just like, oh gosh, the idea that she would have ever had an affair with Rafe or that she knows him carnally just kind of makes me want to itch or something. And so the fact that she could do that, and she, upon the rewatch, clearly she's an indigene at this point. I was just like, wow, she really is good at what she does.
She is. She's built for it practically. Now, you're comfortable with calling her Cougar Nikki. You just don't want to think about why she's earned that title, do you?
Exactly, which, I mean, you just called my bluff. And normally I am so okay with things like that. You know what it is, though? It's Graham. Maybe I'm uncomfortable with
hair.
Graham Greene. It's the hair, and it's just
the hair. And I think it's the
gotta
curly
be.
gray hair. I don't see her as being Weasley in the way she's gotten information. I think that she's very cunning and knows her enemy.
Mm-hmm.
She played on Graham's emotions and his default reactions to get the information she wanted. And yes, she kind of poked the badger to get it, but she knew that that's how she could get it from him.
Right, you're right. She knows. You make a good point, because the way indigenes, I think, are very good at knowing how, for instance, humans react. They know how something's going to play with humans. They seem really good at intuiting that, and in a certain way. They just don't intuit it for themselves, but they know how someone else will react to information. In that regard, that's exactly what she was doing in that scene. She was like, I know what he's going to say. I know how this is going to make him feel, and this is how I'm going to get the information that I want.
Okay, well, that was Goodbye Blue Sky. And one of the things that I love about that episode is the fact that they brought in something that was outside of Defiance and actually affected more than just Defiance, and that was the Razor Rain.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of information about the debris up in the arc belt. There wasn't a lot of arc faults. There was one, maybe, in the whole series.
Yeah, one.
In the whole season, sorry. And there's just not a lot of outside information.
And sometimes I do wish they do a great job doing this with some of their marketing and some of the extras that you can get when the show's airing. But sometimes I do wish they would have a little bit more time, or they did this in the next episode, the astronaut episode. But I do wish they would take some more time to really show us how the world is. Like, Razor Rain is a pretty important thing. And maybe they do this in the game. So clearly you know how the world is in the game. So this is another reason to play.
There's no Razor Rain in the game. Not yet. I don't know if there ever will be, but...
There should be. That would make a very hard mission, I imagine.
Well, the way that the arc falls worked before was we were getting smaller chunks. We were getting the smaller bits, because if you look at the trajectory of a falling whatever that wouldn't burn up in the atmosphere, if it landed anywhere near Defiance, well, it would leave a big path of debris that would reach all the way past San Francisco and onto the ocean. So all the smaller bits are because it's left over from whatever fell over there.
Right.
And Razor Rain is just a whole bunch of scrap metal falling.
Which dangerous enough, yeah.
Now we're actually getting full arc falls and actually getting to go into these ships like you got to see in the pilot episode with Nolan and Arissa.
Yes.
When they actually walk into the debris. Yeah. Now we're getting to do that. So things are starting to gel pretty well between the show and the game. Bunny Summers. Another tweet from her. She seems to be following this Relive Defiance pretty weekly, huh?
She is, and she's, one of the group members that actually does tweet every single week with us. So, Bunny, you're awesome. You really hold it down for Europe. But, she basically tweeted, it was like, it could have been the title of, if this episode were a fairy tale, this would have been the perfect name for it. It's like Little Wolf and Big Zombies Grand Day Out. And it was just exactly what it was. And that's why I love the fans, because this was a really serious episode. It made me feel a bunch of feelings that, maybe I don't normally feel when I watch TV. But then despite that, as fans, we just kind of, take a step back and don't take it all too seriously. So I like that about the fandom. Yeah,
now I'm going to have to change the shirt design and say Zombie Sukar Muppet Slayer.
So I will be going to Dragon Con this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, 2014. And I definitely will be wearing that shirt. So I'm going to get it made some kind of way, but I will be wearing that.
Now, is Noah Danby going to any cons? Because we need to go ahead and have him sign that.
We need to start a Twitter campaign right now and get him to one.
Him and all the other secondary characters. I don't consider them secondary, but they don't ever seem to show up to cons. And I don't know if it's because they're not asked or never invited. We want to let them know they are.
You know what? You bring up a good point. I'm going to mention this on Twitter a few times, that we should start actively engaging, the planners of these cons for some of them, and just reminding them, like, hey, this is a person you could probably actually get to come.
Yeah, Trina Keating,
for some
talking
of the smaller
about you.
Ones. Exactly.
So, episode 8, I just wasn't made for these times. I think this is one of your favorites, isn't it?
It is. It is my least favorite episode name, but it is my favorite episode. The name of this episode is just so long, so every time I'm just like, oh God. So I call it the astronaut episode, but it is one of my favorites just because of the world building that goes on during the episode.
It's probably one of the first episodes we actually get to see anything about, okay, well, it'd be the second one, anything about, what is it, EREP, Earth Republic.
Yeah, and as a government nerd, and I like talking about bureaucracy and seeing how systems in a post-apocalyptic world, how they've kind of created some new system of government. Like, how are people managing themselves? How has society created these new rules? And it just seems to me that the Earth Republic is just going along like everything's fine, and they're completely ignoring all these insurgencies. And clearly that's not good governance. And I'm just so curious about how the EREP works.
The Earth Republic was actually formed before Pale Wars happened. This was when we were still trying to come up with a democratic way of moving all the Votans down to Earth, and not just give them Brazil, but try to live peacefully with them. We had already started Earth Republic in secret.
Which was kind of okay. There you go.
Yeah, that's where the conspiracy part comes in.
And the way and then Connor Lang with, I love Gail Harold, the actor, but Connor Lang, God rest his soul. He's such a boring guy. He's just such a typical EREP guy. And I know I'm going to make some fans mad because they love Connor, but he's just a reminder that, Amanda used to be so vanilla. Like, she just dated this bureaucrat. Like, I imagine if Arc Falls had never happened, they'd both go to, no offense to, now I'm really digging myself a hole here, but I'm just like, they would live this vanilla lifestyle together and just be boring together. And
in this new and strange frontier, that is not what you want to do.
Right. They don't want to do any of that. So when he comes around, I'm just like, oh God, Amanda, like, just thank God you're doing your own thing in Defiance.
Yeah, but she gave pause. She wanted to go back for a little bit.
I think she did. There's a part of her that I think really craves that, not only a sense of, it's not necessarily power. I think it's more like
security.
Security, stability, accomplishment for her.
Yeah.
I'm glad the fact that she said no really does make you think that there is something there, something very akin to Nolan in a way.
Well, it's either the bureaucrat or the Arc Hunter, which is the adventurer. And obviously she's leaning towards the Arc Hunter, but I have a feeling in season 2 she's going to blaze her own path and ignore all guys whatsoever. Just do it, you know?
Yeah, I think she's gonna kind of not necessarily sell out, but just use basically everything she can against the person. So she's gonna use what she can against the E-Reps. She's gonna use what she can against the Votans. She's gonna have loyalties nowhere.
She's going to take some lessons from Stamatar.
Yeah, hopefully. Hopefully in more than a few areas. I would love to see that.
Yeah, but don't follow in your sister's footsteps or you know where you'll end up.
Yeah, the woods.
Exactly.
Not in a good way. Yeah. But this episode, because it was one of my favorite episodes, I'd watched it a few times before, and for one, I was riveted by Trina Keating's performance in this episode. For some reason, I mean, she was horrible. Like, if you look at this matter of factly, she was horrible. She did horrible, horrible things in this episode. I kept thinking, like, oh, the banality of evil during the Pale Wars and all these things, but I felt for her every single time. I think I was more on Docul's side than I was on poor McClintock's, and that's horrible. That should not be the case.
I'm always on Docula's side, so I can't comment on that. I will be her nurse and lab assistant for the rest of my life.
Whatever she asks, we will do blindly.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and another thing on this episode that as I was rewatching, I was very concerned with my own morality because I'm rewatching it. And, the first time I saw this episode, I think I saw a screen cap first, and I thought, oh my goodness, it was a Stamatar, Jamie Murray in the bath, and I thought, oh my gosh, she's practically naked. What is cable television coming to? Or I just had this moment of, holy crap, like, look at her. And then when I rewatched it, I just, I was like, yeah, another bath scene. She looks great. Maybe she should be wearing less, and I just thought, what is going on here? Like, Defiance, you've ruined me, basically.
Oh, no. There's been other shows that are much worse. And much
Game
worse.
of Thrones, yeah.
Before that, there was what, True Blood?
Oh, yeah, you're right. True Blood made me feel even weirder because usually when there was nudity, there was also blood. So
blood and nudity. At least now you just get, white paint
water
and bath
and
beads.
nudity.
Yeah.
Right, which is, white paint. True. That's a little weird too, but but I do have a question about this episode. So usually in all episodes, I'm down with it, and then I have a couple of questions that just nag at me because I can't let anything go. So in this particular episode, how did the Indigenes actually program McClintock to go after, specifically, I know he's going after prime ministers and mayors, but how did he know, oh, right, Amanda Rosewater, she's a mayor? I mean, did she give off a pheromone? Like, how did he know that she was mayor? How did he just not think she was just a girl with a side braid?
Typical espionage. He sits there and he gathers intel. He listens to everybody. Okay, first off, they picked a prime subject. He's an astronaut, an American hero. All astronauts are American heroes. Yeah. Usually, people of power and leaders are going to be the ones that greet him and host him and throw parties. And prime location to gather intel on our governments.
You make a good point, because first you're reminding me that he was programmed, like, it's not like he was supposed to wait 30 years and then go, or 10 years or whatever it was, and then go after them. Like, he was programmed right away, kind of, to go after these people. Mm-hmm. So is it like it's kind of like a tag in a software program, maybe? Like, he heard mayor, and then he went after her.
No, I think he's more than just a killbot. First off, there's an organic component to him. He's a clone. He's a copy of a human, and then he's got its own intelligence, and so he's gathering intel. He waits for the opportune time to kill who he's going to kill, because he didn't just do it as soon as he found out she was mayor. He waited until everybody was asleep and it was dark, and then he went after her.
Mm-hmm. And they were drunk, right?
And then when he got caught, he was able to feign innocence without realizing he was doing it. That was programmed in. So he's more than just a killbot. He is intelligent.
You're right. It's a whole new level of AI. And so rewatching this, I kept thinking, oh man, they could have you couldn't improve on this episode by much. It is one of my favorites, and the script was just so great by Clark Perry.
If you keep analyzing it and keep watching it, little things will keep popping up. Like the fact that ending has much more of an impact now. If you think about him as an intelligent being, and not just a copy or a robot or a clone.
Right.
He has his own thoughts. He has his own feelings, besides the fact that he had his own major programming on top of that. So now he has to break away from that, establish his own identity, and go off, which is exactly what he went to go do.
Right, and which is why that conversation that he had with Rafe at the end was even more meaningful, even before he went back to his, now older bride.
Exactly. It's a much more meaningful ending, and it has a little bit bigger significant impact towards the viewer after the second rewatch because you understand just how intelligent this assassin is.
Exactly. I still wish the episode would have gone something like this. He gets up out of bed, ready to go murder the mayor, but then what he does is he interrupts Amanda and Nolan in bed together. And so, I think maybe, or not sleeping together, but they just kind of pass out together.
Like they did on the couch.
Yes, but
They were kind of sitting on the couch getting all cozy, and I think they practically got drunk in each other's arms.
I know, and I wish they would have just stayed that way. It was so cute. I mean, I just, they're cute together. I'm
No,
kind
you
of
know what's cuter than that?
Amanda by herself with her vibro. Yeah.
No.
No, it's fine.
Graham Greene actually smiling, laughing, and carrying a conversation like a normal human being, and not a sourpuss.
And isn't he such a great actor that he could do that? I'm like, wow, I had no idea that Rafe could feel so kind of warm. Because, half the time I'm like, how in the world could his children actually, feel some sort of affinity towards him aside from just fear and him being a curmudgeon? But that kind of gave you kind of an entree into how he could be as a person. And he was actually really cool.
I think Graham Greene is just a fun, hilarious person in real life. I just want to walk up to him and just rub his head a little.
I think you could probably. You should do that at a con. Like at the next con, you should just do that.
Yeah, if I want to get
Jesse
tackled by
Rath
security,
next to you.
sure.
Right.
Anyway, a few tweets from some rewatchers. Daz is very popular amongst the Defiance community, isn't he?
He is. And he has good questions and great observations. So I figured, Ben, you could definitely answer this one.
So does Charlie Rivers appear in the game? Yes. She doesn't actually physically appear in the game. She's mentioned. She rode in the caravan that got sick and actually stopped at Top Notch Toolworks, by the way, where Aaron Knighton is.
Ah.
Yeah, when she comes in and she says, "Hi, I'm Charlie Rivers, I'm a reporter," and then all of a sudden she becomes sick the next episode. Yeah, she's mentioned.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's just it's something that you listen to in the data recorders or read in passing lore. It's not something that you would automatically see right away. It's just kind of a wink and a nod towards gamers.
Okay, great. Which I love that they do that. And then I'm curious. So I love the character of McClintock, the astronaut, and I would love for him to be in season 2 or to come around again. I don't know if we'd ever see that. I mean,
I think it'd be a one-off episode.
yeah, or just like maybe a Midge. I don't know, something. But he was great. So Bunny had tweeted that. She said, "I hope McClintock makes a season 2 appearance." And I'm with you, homegirl. That sounds like a plan. Get Clark Perry to write it.
I think you could make a permanent addition to the game portion. Since his character's not so heavily important to the story, he could totally be somebody that's just fun and connects to the show because it's the same universe, but be a part of surviving in the San Francisco Bay Area. I think that'd be awesome.
That would be really great. Hey, if developers are listening, that would be awesome.
Botanophile, or Fias as we call him.
Yeah, I always say Fias just because I'm not. He'll probably tell me on Twitter like tomorrow exactly how to pronounce it. But he's got Doc down. I mean, sarcasm, cynicism, and disdain. That's pretty much her triad, her holy trinity of character traits.
Or her only 3 emotions,
Right.
Period.
Right.
There is no in between. I don't think she could mix sarcasm and disdain at the same time. I think it's just one right after the other. Instant
I
face
agree.
change.
And I would love to see, because this sounds like something Trina could actually get into. I would just love to see her do her own YouTube Funny or Die clip of someone going on a first date or a blind date with Doc Yule and just trying to make it through a dinner with that woman. That would just be amazing.
It doesn't even have to be Funny or Die. Sci-fi, you got gold right there.
Right. Webisode that
Exactly.
immediately.
Speaking of webisodes, let's go ahead and talk about Jesse. Jesse
Yeah.
Rath is doing his little featurettes on YouTube. There's been 2 released so far. I'm dying to wait for more. First one he released actually is a set tour. And I'm sure as soon as I saw it, I thought immediately of you.
Yeah, I mean, because it's in the Tar household. And Jamie Murray makes an appearance, which was fantastic. I love the rapport between Jamie, Tony, and Jesse. And he's just so good at playing himself down. He's just amazingly funny, Jesse Rath. And you wouldn't think it by watching his character in Defiance, but he's really funny. And the Tar house is only 2 rooms, which I had no idea the set was that small.
2 transforming rooms, no less.
Yeah, and they just rearrange it, which I guess isn't that hard because it's not like I've noticed a lot of furniture in those rooms. It just seemed so vast every time
Just a
I
lot of hanging
watched.
drapes.
Yeah, and some white tables and just people standing around. So
Now, I thought the appearance of Jamie was a little bit better for me, for Hellbugs, and probably for Carly, and anybody else who made it to the Defiance panel at Sci-Fi Expo in Dallas, because Tony Curran actually told a story about Jamie Murray walking off set in her Uggs all the time. And that's exactly what she was doing in front of Jesse Rath. She's just stomping off set with her boots. They were making fun of the fact that she's always so delicate and dainty on set because she doesn't want to get her makeup messed up. That's why she's got this elegant presence on the set. It's more because she doesn't want to get her makeup messed up than it does to enhance the character, I think. When she's done and the camera's off, she's stomping around set with her Uggs. Just unladylike, and it's just hilarious.
right, and just going to town. Yeah, it was pretty fantastic. And then the best thing about that set tour is these little things just dazzle me. The fact that in the middle of the bedroom there's a rug, and then hey, there's the bath, and that's how they transform into the bath, which just completely, I don't even think they need to transform the set for that. I mean, doesn't that kind of just fit with the whole cast within mentality that of course you should have a bath right next to your bed, go from one to the next?
No, you'll get the bed sheets wet.
And not
You
not
can't
in
have
a good
that.
way.
Exactly. It just clings to you, and you're romping and rolling around in bed, and all you're gonna do is end up a sheet zombie. Just
Yeah,
you can't do it.
you can't.
I'm actually
Exactly.
surprised that the Castletons don't just sleep in the tub.
I thought that too. And then I thought, oh, well, of course the bath is nowhere near the bed because the bed, they actually don't, they just have different norms. So the bed, they actually just sleep in it. The bath is meant for, this whole set tour just set off a whole
A bunch of
kind of,
questions.
yeah, a bunch of questions. I'm like coming up with my own mythology around how the Tars and the Castletons live and where they eat, I'm basically like starting a Sims, like a Tar version of the Sims in my head.
Now, what Jesse did say kind of sparked, I guess, just made me aware for the first time that the Castletons are living surrounded in white like they're living in a cloud, and it just kind of dawned on me. Well, that makes total sense. They're
That was
lofty and arrogant. They're up in the clouds, and that explains why the sheets are always so fluffy and everything. It was eye opening for me. I never made that connection, and I should have, but I hadn't.
And I didn't either. So thank you, Jesse. That was perfect.
Following the Tar set, we got to walk into the Macaulay's ranch house, which you've seen in the show. Large, beautiful, out in the wilderness. It's actually in the set, and it's about 3 rooms. It's the kitchen, the living room, and that little foyer that connects them.
Yeah, and they were big. To me, it seemed like big, big rooms. I mean, I wouldn't mind trying to sleep on that set like Jesse did, but it's just amazing that was just a vast warehouse kind of set, but they make it feel like such a warm home. Although I do have a question. So in the part where he opened the refrigerator and Jesse said, it smells really horrible in here, was he playing around or did they actually have spoiled food in that refrigerator?
No, I do not believe that the set crew would be that negligent. I mean, that's just going to make people sick, and they're not going to
Right.
come to work. So yeah, no, he's totally pulling our legs. But I didn't get to see any green eggs and ham in there.
Right, which not good, yeah.
Well, because about the one episode where Christy McCauley's sitting there cooking breakfast for her brother, and then Raph comes in. She's actually serving green eggs, like the yolks were green, and she had a big ham leg on the table, so she was making green eggs and ham for everybody. It was hilarious.
That's amazing. Even on the rewatch, I didn't notice that. That's amazing.
Oh, I've got a screen cap somewhere here. I'll go ahead and put it on the Facebook page. But yeah,
Oh,
green
that
eggs
is
and ham.
so cool. God, I love the Defiance set people. Like they just have the most fun.
It shows because Jesse, when he's making these videos, are hilarious. The first thing he's doing is sitting at a piano playing sweet, sweet jazz music, saying,
Playing
"Hey."
beautifully.
He's
Yeah.
like, "Hey, how you doing? You look beautiful." Of course, I look better. Is that what he said?
Right. Yeah, yeah. And he's just really funny. I mean, if you don't have a crush on Jesse Rath right now, then
Something's wrong with you.
need to. Yeah. You need to get checked because he's pretty great.
If there's anybody I would love to have come on the show and talk, out of anybody, I think he'd be my number one choice. Just because he's more in tune with the audience than everybody else is. He is of the viewer's generation, I think. And
And he's a total fanboy. Yeah.
he is. He's a fan of sci-fi. He collects comic books. He games. I don't know that he games as much as Grant Bowler does, but he does game.
Yeah.
I think he fits more with with our audience, and having him on the show talking about Defiance would be awesome. So if anybody out there's listening, let's see if we can make that happen. That'd be awesome.
Yes.
And then there was a second one, Breaking Bread. It was a shorter one. It was very much enhancing that Jesse Rath Graham Greene rapport that we see on set, off set.
Yeah, and I like that. I love the juxtaposition between the offset Jesse and Graham, because I feel like he's mentioned him just a few times. They've always had a good rapport offset, because even at a most recent con, I don't know if it was in Canada or where it was, but they were both on a panel together. And I like that the fact that on screen, they do have kind of a contentious relationship and they're getting to know each other. And so it's just nice to see these interactions off screen between the two of them. I just like the comparison of the two. But this one, there's a part of me that's like, oh, well, this one was like 30 seconds of pretty much the most uninformative thing I've ever seen. But it was also the most entertaining behind the scenes interaction that I've seen.
But it wasn't. Okay, what I've seen time and time again is the rapport between Jesse, Tony, and Jamie, and how they act as a family offset when the cameras are off, just because they're used to doing it on set. They translate that. And then there's relationships between other characters, but we never see... Jesse and Graham are the two people that you wouldn't expect to be friends, and they look like they're actually close friends. They joke around with each other very well, like, they've grown fond of each other's company. So it is interesting. There was also a sneak peek to season 2. Did you catch it?
In that
particular
Breaking
video.
Bread?
Yes.
I don't think I did.
When he was sharing a cigar with Jet.
Oh, yes. I got so confused because I had, it's one of those moments when you're like, wait a second.
Did that happen?
I'm pretty sure I haven't seen this before. And where is this coming from?
It's season 2.
I loved that. And I'm hoping, because, Rafe's living with them or staying with them, that there's just so many dynamics that brought up. And I remember thinking, wow, Alec looks really dapper. And whatever he was wearing, he looked really together. And he didn't look like the teenager of season 1 that he kind of had always been. He looked like he was really man of the house.
But he was still unsure of himself.
Yeah, and he was still scared, stack-faced by Rafe, which was kind of funny.
Well, let me point out a couple things. One, Rafe is sharing a cigar with Alec, and Alec, for one, has never smoked a cigar. It's an Earth tradition.
Right.
One, out of his element, and two, not sure what to do. He's holding the cigar in one hand and the clipper in the other, trying to figure out what he needed to do left. He was just looking at them very strangely while Rafe was having a conversation with him. And the other thing to point out is Rafe is back in his house.
Yes.
When does that happen?
That's why I thought I missed something, because I know, at some point he's staying with the Tars, and then I would assume that anything, the Earth Republic, like how does he manage to keep that house? It's not like he kept the mines, so
he couldn't. No, Earth Republic took the mines and they took the house, and I believe one of the new characters coming to season 2, the Elder, I cannot remember his name. He is going to be taking Rafe's house and living in it.
And so somehow Rafe gets it back. That's what we just saw, basically.
Yes, we see Rafe in his house. We see Alec pretty snazzed up in his outfit. Looks good. And it's just, when does this happen? Is this later in the season? Is this early? Are we going to see a lot of changes this quickly? What happened?
And then I wonder, would they have released, or would they have okayed this footage for basically a later episode, or would they have only okayed this footage if it was in an earlier episode? And then I thought, are they having a cigar to kind of, is there a baby between Christy and Alec? Are they...
That was my thought.
Celebrating? Yeah, that was my thought too when I saw it.
They're celebrating the birth of a child. That's when you bust out the cigars.
Exactly. And I'm so excited to see a little mixed species baby going on. And I just want to see that whole in-laws kind of fight over the firstborn.
Yeah, this season 2 is going to be totally awesome. I cannot wait. Going off of that, there's other news that you found, actually, about Julie Benz. What's this about?
She was I'm not familiar with this line of cons, but Wizard World, and she was at a Sacramento-based event this past weekend, and then she was tweeting, she was mostly tweeting like pictures of her shoes, but fans actually got some good pictures of her on a panel with Aaron Sagers, who also did the panel at Dragon Con. He's pretty much everywhere. He's a big, I wish I was a geek like that, and could host all these panels. But I think she was on a panel by herself, and which completely makes sense, as much as of a repertoire as she has between Boondock Saints and Buffy and Dexter and Defiance. Of course she should be on a panel all by herself, but I haven't found a video of it. As soon as I do, of course, we'll post it and we'll make sure to share it. But I think next she'll be at Fandom Fest in Louisville in August, and so
she's hitting the
she's
cons
busy.
hard, isn't she?
She is. I wish she'd hit Dragon Con.
They just released a lot of the lineup for the Dallas Comic Con, which is happening in March 17th. But
not this year. 2014?
Yeah, the Dallas Comic Con.
Oh yeah, the big. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. It was Sci-Fi Expo that was.
Exactly. And they're hosted by the same people, so. But the thing is I don't see any of the Defiance cast on this one, and that makes me really, really sad.
Well, because there's a lot of cool and actually, that they have a lot of lineups with this Wizard World and the Comic Cons coming up. And I really wish they would put some of the other actors to work and get them promoting. I mean, I know we've got kind of a lag here between when they're probably going to really start promoting the show, so why not just keep up interest? They've certainly got enough to tease with the season that they could just give us small snippets and we'd be happy.
Well, we've only got about 4 months before we actually get some Defiance, so in 4 months a lot can happen. I want some more cons in between there. I want to see if I can get some more autographs. I've got the Tar family up on my wall, and I want Nolan and Arissa right next to them.
You need all the families, and then you can just get Julie Benz by herself because she doesn't have a family anymore. That's so sad.
Oh, that is sad.
Oh,
I can't do that.
Is.
You have some tweets for thought. That's an interesting segment. I might have to steal that for next show.
And the only reason is because they were tweets that made me think. So, and it was really only one, just because it caught my eye. So Andrew Langerman, he's always been a fan. I've seen him on Twitter for months now, tweeting about Defiance. And he says, I think Defiance has a chance to explore how Nolan deals with PTSD. It could be interesting to the plot. And I had never really thought about that, because in this post-apocalyptic world, I'm just thinking, well, no one has time for that. Like, clearly everyone's figured out a way to deal with, all of their feelings around the Pale Wars, etc. And I just hadn't thought about that. And I mean, maybe Nolan's already dealt with that, but it could be interesting to see how he did get through that and what he does think of what he's been through. Because no one really talks about how Rafe has mentioned it. Like, he's talked about the past a couple of times.
They've also talked about pharmaceutical situations. Nikki and Rafe talked about Rafe's wife and her running out of medication.
Bipolar, right? It could just be bipolar.
Bipolar. There you go. We were going to run out of medicine eventually.
Yeah, that's scary.
There's no way around that. We're pretty much surviving on what's left, and it's probably all expired or all gone, or really, really, really expensive. So people are just going to have to learn to deal with their issues as we have once in the past before. I mean, it's not ideal. We adapt and we survive.
That's true. You just keep going. There's really no time for a lot of feelings, basically.
There's not.
There's no time for that. And really, okay, so here's a new thing. So is there really, I'm not psychiatrist, psychologist, none of that. But if you never actually get past the post, so I feel like they just keep getting thrown into these new situations. So there's never actually a time to deal with how you feel about a certain situation. So, you go from the Pale Wars to then a new situation to now things are in upheaval once again. So there's not really time to figure out how you feel about your past and what happened, because you're always dealing with something new. So it's a great way to put off that kind of thing.
I think once a trauma has happened, then PTSD is possible because it's post that trauma.
Right.
Even though you're thrust into a situation all the time, one right after the other or several at once, you're still going to suffer from PTSD.
And then it's just going to affect how you are in basically the new trauma or whatever else it is that you're doing.
Then you get known as twitchy.
Right, which I can see that happening in season 2. A lot of people
ready with the itchy trigger fingers.
Yeah, we'll see that a lot. And then even Defiance World is giving me tweets for thought lately, because they tweeted a picture of a food in 2046 called POW.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a cross between a pig and a cow, which means that Jewish people can't enjoy that either. It's like, okay, beef is now ruined for us now. So great. They do it. This is what I like about the way Defiance does its marketing and promotion. And I think this is when they're at their best, is when they're coming up with these new things and just showing us snippets that we hadn't noticed before. And it's just fun.
POW has been around for a while. It's all over the place. If you want to actually see a live POW, play the game. They're
It's
running around.
for real in the game.
They're cows the size of pigs with a pig barrel body and the pig tail, but the nose and snout is very much of a cow. And
That's so strange.
yeah, and they're running around in little herds, and you can shoot at them and kill them, and really they
This
do
is like
nothing. Actually,
a
no.
post-apocalyptic Oregon Trail. Like, oh,
They
just put
will.
it in your wagon.
It is a frontier. No, you can't pick it up. And as a matter of fact, I think they patched it to where you can't actually kill them anymore. I actually
Oh,
haven't tried to shoot POW in a long time.
you have to get a permit now,
Well,
basically.
it was, as soon as you get into the game and you see this weird creature running around on four legs, you're kind of like, oh, I have to shoot this. Oh,
Right.
this is kind of fun. I got to keep shooting it. And that's what you do. And then you just kind of get bored of it and you start going off after mutants and you just kind of forget about the POW. But there's even the Happy POW farms out in San Francisco.
Oh, that's hilarious. See, I thought they were going to be in Portland,
No,
but
no.
yeah,
But, Happy POWs are in California.
that's amazing. We'll see another shout out to the game that I didn't even know about. So great. Another reason to play the game.
Speaking of,
News from the Bay Area.
we are expecting a new DLC to be released in just a couple short days. Trials and Tribulations of Gunslingers is what I'm calling this segment, but it's actually the Gunslinger Trials. It really enhances the feel of a frontier world, and the public test server is up now. If you want to jump on to download it, basically go to tryon.com, log into your account, and go into your games to manage it, and you'll see Defiance there, and then you'll see Defiance Alpha. Keep in mind, you do need to own a copy of Defiance on PC to access the alpha. And then the new things coming up, they are changing the way group arenas work. They're changing the way arenas work. They are now group arenas. You can battle through any arena in the game as a group. You're sharing kill scores, you're receiving individual rewards for any shots and special things that you do, but the point is you can finally go into those arenas with a friend. And believe me, our last co-host, Chris, would be very happy about this. He was always frustrated with the casts and arenas. They're not easy. Now there's new arenas. They present a wider variety of challenges and environments. They give an opportunity for all types of players and play styles to shine. I've played on the alpha test server or the public test server, and it's basically the co-op missions now turned into arenas. Believe me, they're not easy. I would suggest going in a group. Now, they don't punish you for playing single player, but they do punish you for sucking as bad as I do. And I'll come back to that in a minute when we talk about the improved scoring. But on top of the group arenas, there are the changes to the arenas. They're also going to contain some story elements and objectives. They'll feature all new combat encounters in both environments, new and familiar. There's going to be a new interior for some arc falls, and there's going to be a fateful showdown with Dekuzo and his newly upgraded raider minions. So that's something to look forward to. We're finally getting some new story elements. There's actually 3 different quest lines that have been added on with this Gunslinger's trial, as well as the arenas. Now, you do have to play through the arenas to continue the quests, but you can start all 3 of them. The improved scoring, now this is where everything starts to change. Instead of sorting players by damage done, which is how we've done it since forever now, Gunslinger Trial leaderboards will sort by a revamped score values, and they translate directly into rewards. Now, this is a better scoring system in most cases, and I'll say why it's not completely. Each point earned is going to contribute to your XP and script and key codes awarded. The scoring actually gives everybody the opportunity to present moment-to-moment feedback about success and failure, which means When you do something like the hard reset bonus for stunning a dark matter bulwark, which is throwing a nano effect to it and basically stunning him, you're going to get bonus points for that. But you'll also start suffering points for extractions and incapacitations and repeated events of those, which is where it hurts me. If I am playing, and usually I am playing solo, just because I like to run through things as quick as possible, if I get downed or if I get stuck in a place where I just keep getting shot down and I have to extract, my score starts suffering badly, and it isn't worth it. You have to go in with a friend.
Mm-hmm.
There are new incentives. They're going to start giving you a reason to team up, basically. You're going to get teamwork and opportunist scoring. Teamwork rewards players for dealing damage to the same target. So everybody shooting at one target, you're all going to get points from that same enemy's point value. Opportunist is a bit different. Basically, it rewards you bonus points for dealing damage to an enemy that is debilitated by a nano effect. So if you pretty much set an enemy on fire and walk away and start shooting another enemy, well, the fact that you're helping that enemy go down while everybody else is shooting at it, you're going to get points for that. Brings up issues with, and also solves issues with, kill stealing, which is prevalent in most games. If you've ever played a first-person shooter, people who come up and get the last strike in that kills the enemy, usually they get rewarded all those points. Well, that's not the case anymore. Everybody's going to get a percentage of the total value of points that enemy is worth. This gets into numbers and gets a little complicated, but the point is, you're going to get 20% of the points if you get the kill shot, but you're going to get so many points for actually bringing him down so much in his life value, or throwing that nano effect in. Everything you do is going to have a point value associated with it, and your scoring is more a reflection of how you play than it was before, than just damage numbers, which is great.
That sounds great. I know, gamers, and, it's sometimes changes are taken very well and sometimes they're not. So, but this, from a layman's point of view, sounds fantastic.
What it sounds like is however much work you put into it, you're going to get rewarded for it. So if
Isn't
I work,
that how life should be?
Yeah, I worked an hour,
Yeah.
I'm going to get paid for an hour's worth of work.
Awesome.
So it's pretty much the same equivalent there. Now, speaking of all the scoring, I pulled some questions from the Q&A with Trick Dempsey on some of the Friday live streams, most particularly last Friday, which was the 7th, and the Friday before that, only because there was some questions that reflected the new Gunslinger trial changes, and most of the questions, I just picked and chose the ones that really affect what's going on now. The first 4 questions I've got here, or the first 3 questions, are about the scoring. Does grouping have an impact on score inside Gunslinger? It doesn't. Whether you go solo or you go in a group, you're going to get scored on your performance. If you go in with a group, you're going to tear shit up. So obviously your personal score is going to reflect that. Every bullet you put in, you're going to get points for, and you're obviously not going to get down so often, so you're not going to get that negative impact. But the fact that you're just grouping is not going to have an impact on the score itself. So there's no adjustment to grouping as far as going solo. Does the new scoring system in Gunslinger punish solo players? Again, they are actively punishing players who die a lot. It's not punishing the fact that you're going solo, just if you really suck at the game. So if you are a person who died a lot regardless of the strategy, it's going to be a painful update for you, and you're going to have to get better at surviving. And those are words out of Trick's mouth, so take it as it is. Is kill stealing an issue with the new scoring system? Much like it does inside of Sieges and the live game, every time you do damage to an enemy, they reward you with a portion of their bag of points. And this is what I was saying earlier. 10% of the enemy's total score value is given as a bonus for getting the killing blow. We've since added a little bit more nuance to that, like 30% if there was a critical kill, or if you have a nano effect on them at the time, you're going to get another 20%. So it's possible to milk an enemy for a lot of points from a kill. Keep all that in mind. There's only so many points in that bag of points. Whatever you put in, that's how much you're going to get out. With smaller enemies, kill stealing is still an issue, and you just have a short time to kill them all. So if you're facing an enemy with a larger stack of hit points, you'll earn teamwork points for shooting at them, and you'll get the chunk of points every time damage threshold is reached. Okay, basically, the smaller the enemy, the easier it is to kill steal, because there's not a lot of points in their bag. The bigger an enemy, the better chance you have for team killing, for opportunist points, for kill shots, everything. So really focus on the big enemies. Now, if you're playing solo, go after those smaller enemies when you're alone. That's all I can say about that. Now, there are some other questions. These were pretty interesting to me. Are there any plans for new enemies? Yes. And Trick looks forward to talking about those new enemies in a future stream. And he says he doesn't think that stream is very far away. So I anticipate after the release of Gunslinger Trials, we may, with the 5th DLC, get a new enemy, or enemy type. which is going to be something I hope ties into Season 2. What is the next playable race? Ever since we did the Cassathans, we've been looking at what our next playable race will be. Now, he doesn't actually answer the question, but he goes off to say that, he loves the Sensos. They're not on the top of the list, though. He loves the Indigene. And he thinks that biomen aren't explored enough. I agree with that. And they have a completely different racial story from everyone else because they were created. He didn't actually answer the question.
No.
If I had
What would you say? What's your top bet of who it's going to be?
If I had to say, I think that he would definitely go into biomen.
I hope so. That would be pretty interesting. And it's perfect. Like, it just seems like it would fit perfectly with the game and what you're trying to do in the game.
What I was about to say was the show focuses a lot on the Votan races, but the game focuses a lot on E-Rep more than the races. More the E-Rep, the mutants, and the bandits, So biomen would fit very well in that.
Yeah.
Especially since, they're the big baddies, and all we do is ever shoot at them. We don't actually get to explore them. The only time we ever explored them was in one episode of Defiance Season 1. And even that was a surprise to me. I kind of do hope that they do go biomen. Now, there's another question. Will there be any new arc break interiors? Yes, there will be one introduced with the Gunslinger DLC. The changes to that is pretty much making way for future changes so they can add different other interiors after that DLC. So this is going to be a good change. Unlocking mod slots in Alpha has increased in price. Currently, in the Alpha, they're at 200 salvage points, whereas in-game right now it's 120. It's a big jump. Now, the reason being is because they did the math, and, the 120 is actually exceptionally cheap. It was accidentally more than a factor of 10 less than they were supposed to be priced at. So 2,000 is right on par, and they're going to keep that price, which usually the weapons that drop anyways have all 4 mod slots already unlocked. I'm not too concerned. Can we purchase 7th Legion outfits any other way? Last episode, I bemoaned the fact that I could not get an outfit other than the one that came with the DLC, because you have to complete incursions and then pay for boxes with the rep you got. Well, they're finally changing some of that. 2 of the 7th Legion outfits will be available in the Defiance store when Gunslinger Trials comes out, but they're going to be sold for $20 a piece. I don't know how I feel.
Yeah, I did a under the breath whoa there, so you can
I don't know how I feel about paying $20, dropping a 20 for a vanity item that adds nothing to my character other than the change of its appearance. Yeah, it's a vanity item, but $20 is a bit steep in my opinion.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing is that's 2 of the outfits that anybody can buy. 1 outfit given to you for purchasing the DLC, and then the chance to get the last outfit in a box. I hope that they increase the chances of that drop because it's a pain to get. Are Gunslinger outfits going to follow the 7th Legion DLC model? Before I move on to this question, let me just say, when they announced Gunslinger Trials, there was a screenshot included with the new costume, and it looks like a Civil War reenactment.
Great. Sorry. But which side?
I don't understand this. I mean, it's supposed to be Frontier. I understand that. Okay? I can understand cowboy hats and dusters. But in 2046 or whatever year it is now, you're not going to walk around digging through somebody's rumble and find a complete Civil War uniform, reenactment or not, to run around in the Frontier. This was just out. It was crazy to me. It's kind of ridiculous. It's silly. But if you go to defiancedata.com and Etao, I know I'm mispronouncing your name completely. I always do. I apologize. But I wanted to give you a shout out to you and to your website, defiancedata.com. He has kindly released all the character models for the costumes that are coming to the store soon. And you're going to get to see most of them in the store, or not most of them, maybe half of them, in the store and in-game at launch on the 11th. But the ones that you can't see, they're there. And if you look at them, there's a lot of, there's some there that really fit the character look. It really is starting to feel like a Frontier. Western Frontier or Eastern Frontier now, that's the question. But I still think the one that you get from completing the pursuit, which makes you look like freaking General Lee, is just ridiculous.
I may be looking at it because my mouth just dropped all the way to the floor. It's the General?
Uh-huh.
Oh, no. That seems like so much to wear. That seems so horrible. I mean, you're dead on as far as the Civil War reenactment. That was apt. So yeah, defiancedata.com, it is right there.
Now, if you go to defiancedata.com and then /models.php $P equals 1.4, which is patch 1.4. I'll put a link in the show notes, but those of you that are watching now, you can see all of the ones that are being released. There's a nice jacket there that Irissa wears now, just not in purple, that makes you look like a gunslinger. There's a couple that make you look like a lawman, and then there's the Civil War ones, and it's just like, okay, all of these other ones look great, but the Civil War one just, what?
Yeah, kind of out of place there.
The Union Soldier outfits is what it's called. It really, really is. Now, I can see this. There's one in particular, the Gunslinger, that's the male outfit, all in white, on a Cassethan would look fantastic. Mm-hmm. But some of these others is just, it's crazy. Again, I'll put a link in the show notes. But moving on, yes, it's going to be the same as 7th Legion. You're going to be able to buy a couple in the store. You're going to be able to get them in a random lockbox, utilizes rep. But there's also the Pursuit the Pursuit that comes with the DLC that'll actually get you the general outfit. So the Gunslinger supply chest is available from the VBI vendors for anyone that has completed the Gunslinger missions. As such, earning the Gunslinger outfits does not require the completion of new open world events, just the missions. Whereas 7th Legion, it was open world events. So that's the change. And then the last thing I wanted to discuss, there was hints about upcoming changes for grenades. Now, I was really, really excited when the grenade changes happened, and then I was a little disappointed because my inventory was getting full. I was leaving a lot of loot on the ground because I couldn't pick it up anymore, and a lot of the things that I was getting awarded that I already had was sitting in my claims item page at the Defiance store that I just couldn't get rid of. Then they added the salvage option, which was nice. But now what's going on is they're going to change the quality of life with grenades by changing the drops. They're going to drop less of the specific grenades, stims, and spikes, and they're going to create something called the universal stim or the universal spike or the universal grenade, and they haven't decided on what they're going to call it, but it's basically one of that item that you can pick up that fills in the quantity of whatever you have equipped. So if I had bio grenades equipped and I had 1 out of 5, and I went and I picked up a universal grenade, now I have 2 out of 5. It doesn't matter what I have equipped, it's just going to fill in that one, which is wonderful, because then that means I can actually start picking up grenades and throwing them again. Because I run out, and I got to go into my inventory and swap out, or pick up another of that specific type on the ground, which is a pain. Also, if you come across those that you cannot pick up on the ground, now, when you interact with them, they're going to immediately be salvaged. So you don't have to worry. There's not going to be any more loot on the ground that's blocking your view. You're not going to be running away feeling like, oh my god, I just left a whole bunch of loot behind. Like me, because I'm a little OCD and I cannot leave loot behind. It drives me nuts. Now every time I just click on it, it's going to salvage. So good. That's awesome. Now they don't have a timeline for that. They said this is what they're going to do. It's not going to come out with the next DLC because they're working on crossover stuff. So no timeline, no time for that at all. No time frame. But that's the fix, and that's what they're going to do. So I'm happy with that. Now, that pretty much brings us to the end of all the changes that are coming with the Gunslinger DLC. It is coming. Again, I want to say it's coming March 11th, which is next Tuesday. I hope to see you all in there because it looks pretty exciting. There's finally story mission, and I'm going to discuss the heck out of that next episode. All right, coupon codes. We do have a couple sponsors. Michelle?
Yeah, so first sponsor is Doghouse Systems, and you can use the coupon code MMOReporter at doghousesystems.com to double your RAM. And also we have audible.com, so you can go to audibletrial.com/MMOReporter to get your first month free at Audible.
Both services are great. Doghouse Systems we've touted many times before. I've had a couple of our hosts of different shows get replacement laptops from Doghouse Systems, and the build quality is fantastic. And of course, audible.com for those of you who like to listen to books instead of read them while you're on the go, because not a lot of us have time to sit and read. Audible.com is the perfect place to go for that, and it works for most portable devices, like even your mobile phone. So give it a try. We do have a couple last-minute announcements. Join Women of Defiance, Michelle, and Hellbugs in Love, Jamie, for Relive Defiance every Monday night at 9 o'clock Eastern Time, while they explode all over your timeline with their rewatch event tweets. And if you want to join in and you just don't have Defiance Season 1 yet, shame on you. You should go out and buy it. You can actually view it in the entirety of the Season 1 on the web or on your mobile devices with Sci-Fi Now. It's an app on Android and iOS devices. You do need to have a premium subscription TV service like cable to access it, to log in. But if you do, it's available there. head over to sci-fi.com/now to get started. And then those of you who want to complete the game, the rewatch experience, you can play all of Season 1 crossover events in the game right now. So it's a perfect time to be watching and playing, so you can kind of fill in all those gaps and enjoy what most of us have enjoyed already. It's a good time to catch up. Meet Nolan and Arissa before they leave for the new frontier, then follow and take part in their adventures as you watch and play Defiance Season 1 side by side. Perfect time for new players to experience sci-fi's transmedia adventure as it was intended. So download the free trial. And then, of course, join Defiance Reporter's PC clan, Igni Farouk. No registration is required. Just look for me in-game, Corso Van Locke, and I will definitely send you an invite. And then last but definitely not least, we at Defiance Reporter just wanted to welcome the new community managers, Evan Berman and Eric Cleaver, also known as Scapes and Ocho, to the team. Mr. Berman, I just want to tell you right now, you will forever be known as Scapes. I have kids, and Pixar movies are just wonderful, so Dory's in my head going, Escape. So
That's perfect.
yeah.
Meanwhile, I've read it as Snapes just because I'm like, oh, Snape, and just completely read that completely wrong. So
Scapes and Ocho, or Scapes and Ocho, welcome to the team. Can't wait to see you guys in future, Friday live streams and stuff. Finally, Michelle, if people wanted to get a hold of us.
Yeah, so you can do it. You can contact us directly a few ways, several ways. You can email us at defiance@mmoreporter.com, or you can leave us a voicemail the old school way at 616-666-6778, or you can just visit the website and click the new fancy little widget on the right-hand side of the page. Or you can kind of monitor us indirectly. You can visit the website at defiancereporter.com. You can check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/defiancereporter, or you can just watch us at youtube.com/user/MMO Reporter Network. Or you can find us on Twitter in various incarnations. So you can check out twitter.com/Defiance Podcast, or you can find me at twitter.com/Women of Defiance. And you can find Ben at twitter.com/NebsInsane. And let me spell it. It is NebsInsane. So it's Nebs Insane, which is like Ben's Insane, which is still the best Twitter handle ever.
It's a long story. I got that nickname in high school, so it's stuck. It's been a few years. Okay, it's been longer than a few years.
It's been like 5 years.
No,
5 years.
No. I'm not going to say how many years it's been, but it's definitely not 5. Anyway, thank you, Michelle, for joining us on another wonderful episode. We had a lot of information discussed today, and I hope next week we'll have just as much.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm looking forward to it. I'll see you all next week.
Yeah, thanks, chat room, for joining in. We always enjoy seeing you guys chat while we talk, and we try to answer all your questions. And most importantly, for all of you who download us week after week, we thank you for that and hope you enjoy the show. And most importantly, we hope to see you in game.